Hello and welcome to my preview of the 2024 Transcontinental Race. This is edition number 10, so it's going to be a big one, a big anniversary. So let's have a little look at the route and some of the riders to keep an eye on during this race. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say thank you to Redshift Sports. They've been very supportful of my videos over the last year, and I'm using their shock stem on my bike setup for the TCR. There's a bit of a teaser, I'm actually racing it, so don't expect any daily coverage. Redshift Sports, thanks for sponsoring, and go check those guys out. So let's head over to the Lost.Weds website, and they've got their tracking page up on their website now. So this is where you can find all the information about the Transcontinental Race. Like I said, I am going to be racing, so I'm not doing daily updates this year, but you can find their podcasts and race reports on this tracking page. I'll put the link underneath. And they've got the start list up there and a pre-race report. So have a little look at that. And this is the tracking page. So I'm following my challenge. Not my most favourite tracking website, as you probably know by now. But this is what we're going to use. And as you can see, it gives you a rough indication of the route of the race. Now, the Transcontinental Race is a self-planning, a free route race. So all the riders have had to put together their routes. And there's a series of banned roads and sections which are not allowed to use. Now you can see here, this is the resource provided by the Transcontinental Race, and basically it shows you it's been developed over the course of many editions of the TCR, and essentially it shows you all the races, all the routes the roads that are banned. Some of them are tunnels, and it's a big change since when I first did TCR in 2014 and 15, and there's basically none of this. And we used to ride through tunnels and down motorways and everything, but nowadays it's a bit more controlled. Some of the more dangerous roads are banned. So this is a crucial part of planning, because if you go on a banned road, you could get disqualified or a minimum penalty. And obviously that's something you want to avoid at all costs. All the riders have had access to this, and then they get access to the parcours, which I'll run through in a second. I've actually done a couple of videos about the parcours if you want a bit more detail on them, and a few ideas on the route and which way it might go. But I'll give you a brief overview now. So the race starts on the 21st of July in Roubaix in northern France, just south of Lille. Roubaix, if you're into cycling, you'll know, is the finish of Paris-Roubaix, the world famous cycling race. And they're starting the velodrome there. So it should be a quite historic and a quite cool place to start this race. And then the riders are going to head through the first parcours. We'll check that out in a second, towards Slovenia, where there's another parcours and a checkpoint. So the first section, quite a long section, probably 2 or 3 days for the leaders to get across to the checkpoint 1. The start parcours, as you can see on Rider GPS here, starts in Roubaix and heads across to Gerasbergen, which is the historical start town of the TCR. It was a checkpoint in the very first edition in 2013, and 2015 it actually started there. That's the year I won. Fond memories going back there. And as you can see, there's a few gravelly sections, and it's quite undulating. And we've got a lot of the classic climbs. So we've got the Paterberg, the Koppenberg, loads of it's basically a very mini Tour of Flanders. So lots of the small cobble climbs. I think that's a good start for the race, because it's really going to spread things out in that first 50 miles or so. It's going to be an interesting start. We start at 8 p.m. So hopefully by midnight people will be in Gerasbergen, and we go up the Muurven Gerasbergen, absolute classic cycling climb, especially in the Tour of Flanders. Cobbles up there, and you pass the chapel at the top. See if I can get a little Google Man on there. And as you can see, this is a kind of cobble climb you are. It's pretty steep. If it's raining, which the forecast isn't showing, it can be quite slippery. The legs are going to get a bit of a rude awakening before riders settle on into the route down to Slovenia. Once we get to Slovenia, this is what awaits us. So this is the parcours, 2 big climbs, and technically 1 big climb on the parcours itself. But if we zoom in here, you can see that it's basically a one-way road. So we're going to have to climb up to the top to start the parcours. You can see with the marker there. Loop back round and come back exactly where we've been to. Pretty steep climb, and it's pretty spectacular if we have a little look at Street View here. if it decides to load up. It's been a bit slow today. There we go. Look at that. That is essentially the valley we'll be climbing up. You can see the road snaking up. Bit of tree cover down low, and then higher up I expect it gets a bit more barren. So yeah, that's going to be a pretty cool climb to do. It's an area I've not been there. I've not been to before, not this specific climb, so that would be pretty cool. And then the checkpoint is on top of, I think it's a Vrisnik Pass, and up here there's a little mountain hut where the checkpoint is, and yeah, so there's going to be a big climb there. The parkour sends riders north from there, so then riders are going to basically head towards Ljubljana, I suspect. Obviously free route, so everyone can go where they want, and then head on south towards the next checkpoint, which, if we go back to the tracker, you can see is in Bosnia. So you can see there's a fairly obvious route which riders would probably take south through Slovenia, Croatia into Bosnia. Now this parkour, it's just outside Sarajevo. It's actually where the Olympic Games skiing was held in. I can't remember what year it was in the Sarajevo Olympics. Was it 1990? So you can see Sarajevo down the bottom here. I'll just zoom out to give you a bit of context. In the middle of Bosnia, and then we take this gravel road. So if you look on the elevation below, the profile below, you can see the checkered section shows an off-road section. So basically all of that's going to be off-road. So the first, it's going to be approximately 10 miles of gravel roads. I've done a fair bit of riding in the Balkans. Their gravel isn't exactly smooth, so it could be a bit of a challenge on a road bike, hence me fitting the Redshift stem. So wider tyres are going to be kind of order of the day. And the checkpoint's just up the top here, in one of these small towns. I can't remember exactly where it is. I think it's this one. I've got it marked on my map, I hope. So hopefully I won't get lost. So yeah, checkpoint on the parkour. And then a bit more kind of road, or maybe dirt road. You can never quite trust the gradient, the surface maps in the Balkans. And then head further south still into the parkour 3 in checkpoint 3, which is in Kosovo, which would be a new country for the Transcontinental Race. It's never been there before. I was lucky enough to go there early this year in the Accursed race, and I'll probably be following some of the similar route into Kosovo as I did in that race. Kosovo is a bit of a high plateau, so it's relatively high altitude, not super high, but they'll be higher. And the checkpoint is actually not on this parkour, but this just leads us onto this pass here. The checkpoint is somewhere up here somewhere. And again, it's basically funneling us to the south of Kosovo. There's a few route options to go in there. So quite often riders plan their own route, go longer and flatter. Some go more direct, and in the Balkans there's a few off-road shortcuts if you wanted to take that risk as well. Once CP3 is out the way, there's a long stretch then out to Turkey. So there's a couple of routes, basically Macedonia and Greece, or you might want to go through Macedonia and then Bulgaria and then into Turkey. Again, there's a couple of band roads in Turkey just to make things a little bit more interesting. And the checkpoint is actually in Çanakkale. This is where the 2016 race actually finished, but you've still got another 400 or 500 miles after this point. And as you can see, there's a parkour just after that section. Let's have a little look at that on Riber GPS. And as you can see, I mean, there's not really much information about there. This is obviously an area that doesn't get ridden very much. It's suggesting that it's going to be gravel on the surfaces here. Looks fairly undulating. I think the biggest challenge here could be the heat. At the moment in Southern Europe, it's 35-40 degrees at times. So heat is going to be a real challenge in the latter half of this race. But yeah, that's the parkour there. And then, as I said at the start, the race is finishing once more in Istanbul. I finished there twice before, so it would be nice to return. Although in 2014 and 15, we came into Istanbul from the west. Essentially, I rode the motorway as far as I could and then cut off on these back roads. They've now built a massive airport here, so getting into Istanbul is just really sketchy, which is the reason that it changed in the first place. So this year, we're coming in from the west, so it's a good excuse to explore a little bit more of Turkey. tricky. So I imagine most riders will be heading sort of through Bursa, that kind of direction. Again, there's loads of band roads here, just to make life a little bit more tricky at the end there. And then we have this long 73 mile, it's about 110k, something like that, 120k. Finishing parkour, and as you can see, it's quite undulating. It looks like there's some gravel sections in there. For sure, it's going to be a tough finish to the race. It's not going to be easy. The last 100 miles are going to suck. I can assure you. It's pretty hilly around that area. If we just put the terrain layer on Google Maps, you can see there's no flat. We're going to have to make our way around through these hills, around these hills, or sort of skirt around the hills. But you're not going to avoid the climbing once you're heading up to the start of the parkour. It's going to be particularly lumpy. So yeah, it's going to be a tough finish, and then hitting the Bosporus and rolling all the way down the Bosporus and finishing in Istanbul on the Asian side. So it's the first time the Transcontinental Race has finished in Asia. For me, I think this is a proper TCR. Finishing in Istanbul, getting to the edge of Europe and crossing beyond Europe. It just makes a lot more sense for me. Some of the finishes, Meteora, places like that, they're fantastic places, but you're still not to the edge of Europe. Thessaloniki was a decent one. The ones in Bulgaria, they're okay because you've got a fairly long way across. But for me, Istanbul is iconic. I think it's great that the TCR is back finishing there again. So now let's have a little look at some of the riders who are going to be taking part. I'm going to start with the women because we've got the biggest ever women's field. I think there's 40 odd women taking part this year. A few previous winners and strong riders. So I'm going to start with Jamie Wilson. She's been fastest woman before on the TCR a couple of years ago now. So she's returning for this 10th edition. So it'd be really great to see her there and see if she can do it again. Keep an eye on Jamie. Jana Kessenheimer. This will be her first Transcontinental Race, but she's pretty experienced. I've ridden with her myself in the Japanese Odyssey. She's super strong, a really good climber. I'm sure she'll come into her own when the terrain gets hilly. And she's done the Three Peaks Challenge and various other things. So Jana knows what she's doing. It'd be cool to see how she gets on during the TCR. Another new rider, but very strong, Cynthia Carson. She's not done a race as long as this before, but she's won the Atlas Mountain Race. Amongst other things, won the Badlands, a couple of races over in America, such as Unbound XL. So more on the shorter end of the ultra scale. So this will be the longest thing she's done, but I'm sure she's strong enough to do it. So again, keep an eye on Cynthia and see how she gets on. And there's still another 40 odd women in the race as well. So quite often we find people who've not done it before and just excel. So yeah, it should be good to watch. So keep an eye on that tracker. On to the men's side of things. Well, we've actually got last year's podium, so you can't really overlook those guys. Tim DeWitt, he came third last year. He's about 16 or so hours behind Christoph. Again, he's back, so you obviously need to keep an eye on someone who's already podiumed. Robin Gempele, he managed to push Christoph Strasser for the first, probably 2/3 of the race last year. Ultimately had a few tyre issues and faded a bit towards the end. But I think he's learning. He's done it twice now, so he's obviously going to be learning and getting more experience. He's super, super strong, got a world-class background. Was on one of the world's best mountain bike teams as under 23. So he's got the engine for this. So I'm pretty certain that Robin can challenge Christoph again in Edition 10. Which brings me on to Christoph Strasser, kind of a bit of a legend in the world of ultra cycling, having won the Race Across America 6 times. And now he's taken 2 transcontinental races. So he's coming back for the 3rd time, trying to get the hat trick. Christoph Allegat, he's the only other person to have won the race 3 times. The other person to win twice was James Hayden. So currently Christoph is drawn with him. Keep an eye on Christoph. I think he probably has to be the favourite, to be honest. And but I don't think it's going to be easy. There's a hell of a lot of strong riders here. Next up, we've got 2 riders who've kind of got similar parkour. Palmares. So Abdullah Zainab, he doesn't race very much. He's from Australia. But when he races hard and he goes deep. So he's won the Indian Pacific Wheel Race, the Indy Pack. So that is a race all the way across Australia on the road. He's also on the Trans Am, which is across the USA on the road. So this will be kind of... there's a couple of riders trying to win this I guess this triple crown if you want. So Abdullah is one of those. 3 big road races which go across continents, and the Transcontinental Race is one that he has not yet won. So keep an eye on Abdullah. He's sure to be up there. I know he pushes himself super hard. So yeah, he'll definitely be one to watch. Another one with a similar parcours, palmarès, is Omar De Felici, and again he won the Indy Pack this year. He's won Trans Am previously, so he's aiming to see if he can take the triple, as it were, at the Transcontinental Race. He's not done the Transcontinental Race before, so it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. Obviously, there's a few more kind of nuances compared to those other races with the free route like aspect of it, but he lives in Italy. He's familiar with Europe, so I'm sure he'll be able to put in a good performance. So yeah, that's the favourites. I don't really want to, but I do have to say that I did win it in 2015. So yeah, I guess I probably do have some credentials to be able to win it. Not sure if that's necessarily going to be possible, but for me it's going to be interesting to see how the race has evolved over 10 years. 10 years since I first did it in 2014, 9 years since I won it. I think that the game's elevated quite a lot in those years, and it'd be interesting to see where I sit now. We'll see. Never say never. I know how to win it, but I think it would be foolish of me to think I'm just going to roll through and be able to win it. I think more likely, top 10 is going to be amazing. Top 5 will be like a win, and the podium will be just out of this world. So let's see what happens. And there's numerous other people as well. There's the other 2 guys who were on the podium with me at the Accursed race. Alex Kopp, who won it. Adrian Lechty, who was second. Super strong guys like that who are experienced from the world of kind of off-road racing as well. It's going to be really interesting to see how it all pans out. So keep an eye on the tracker, it should be an interesting watch. And listen to the podcast that the Lost Dot put together. They'll have good race reports, and I'll catch you after the race, and I'll do some kind of rundowns and a race report. And see you in a few weeks' time.